weekly live stream. I don't know why I always stumble over the numbers. It's not like I do them 108 other times. But hey,
I
it's
mean,
100.
there's a lot of numbers.
It's true. We could just start counting backwards again.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Starting now.
Welcome to the first. Yeah, the 109th. We've got people. There's people. People say people.
Whoa.
Allie,
People. Yeah, that's me. I'm a people.
she's a people.
Though sometimes we can't tell.
Fluffy's eye.
Hello. I have
He's
to draw a reach for my microphone whenever I need to talk.
he's a fluffy people.
A fluffy.
I am manually one-hand wielding microphone today.
He's going to beat Art to death with his microphone.
I've also spent all day doing like Pathfinder character building and most of today doing it as well, so I'm just stuck in like fantasy role-playing mode.
Aren't you always in a fantasy world?
Yeah, true. It's usually Equestria, but
Oh,
Is it just fantasy?
I thought Europe was
I
just
felt
a
like
fantasy
fighting
place.
some dragons.
Oh, poor Spike.
Not him, he's cute.
So
And then
today,
of course we have Zamzam.
no, I'm not here.
No.
I'm over there towards the left, hiding.
Oh. Never would have guessed.
Hi. Yeah. So today, Binky. Hey, Binky. How's it going, buddy? Wink. Wait, no.
Quack quack.
Yeah, this is their. I assume this is their OC, because I think we've seen this before.
Quackity quack.
Just like to point one thing out. Yeah, freaking adorable.
So cute.
This
Little
OC is
freckle.
very cute.
Gotta love them freckles.
She has a similar color to my OC, so I approve. Since I don't have freckles or wings, even though all my OC's friends have wings. Scowl.
So do you have any questions offhand, Binky?
Yes. I see. Some vector work.
I think we critiqued that sketch before, because I've seen this big smiley face.
Happy poem.
So that's fine. I mean, vectoring's a thing.
Sorry, I tried to open the stream page and I was bombarded with an advert I couldn't mute or pause, and I was like, ah! Yeah, vectoring is really cool. I got into vectoring a while back, and it's definitely a different beast of its own. You really got to sort of take a different learning curve to it, to how you sort of approach it and stuff.
The lines wavered in width. What? I don't see that. Like, I mean, I see.
I see the tapering.
Yeah, but
But-
that's.
Do you mean it's shaky look? Oh, that might just be because of the resizing.
Yeah, the resizing destroys everything.
Right.
If you zoom in a bit more, it kind of fixes it. Yeah, you got to hit the right zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and then it stops aliasing.
I don't know what you mean about like lines wavering though. They all look pretty consistent to me. And yeah, tapering is something that I always like to do as well. One thing though, do you it just sort of occurred to me, do you draw the lines like each of these is actually a shape? Or do you do what I've seen a lot of like MLP vectoring artists do and actually draw the lines as a solid shape, so you go over both sides of the lines and the lines are a shape and then you have the color inside those? Because that's not really the best way to do it in my opinion. Like normally each thing would have a shape with a stroke to it, and you just have a thick stroke because it's MLP style. Just sort of asking off the bat so we can get a better idea of like how you constructed it.
And they're fixing the missing wing as we speak,
Mhm.
apparently. So,
So
yay.
do you do like the outlines as an actual shape, like you go over and around and actually make the outline as a shape? Because that's obviously like you're doing it by hand. If you did it as a single line, as an actual shape, like the whole head, for example, or the ear or something like that was a whole shape and it had a stroke to it. If you do it that way, then obviously the program is going to make the line completely smooth. You're not going to have to worry about it like bending or sort of not contouring in a smooth way. It's going to do it all for you. But that way as well, you just get a lot more control over the line if you need to change the stroke or anything like that. It's typically the standard way you vector, and sometimes it can sort of be difficult if you have objects overlapping other ones. What I often need to do, in fact, like 7 to 8 times out of 10, for most shapes, I will split it up, so I'll copy it, and then I'll split the color and the outline. So I'll copy the shape, take off the outline, and then paste it on top and take off the color. So I'll have one that's the outline and one that's the color, and that way you can put other objects in between. You can like finish a shape that is supposed to have an open streak, like say the ear or the wing there. Like if you don't need it to be a closed object, you can close the color without closing the stroke, if that makes sense. Doesn't fill it in, it sees the stroke as a fill.
I don't think I haven't used Inkscape.
Okay, so you do so you are drawing the actual like shapes and then just giving them strokes then. I'll try and sketch out what I mean, but I won't be able to talk while I'm doing it.
All right, well, we'll put on waiting music. Do 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 do.
Do, 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 do.
No, I can't. My tablet's not responding.
Oh no. First the mic, now the tablet.
Yeah, Tech
The
hates me
whole
today.
world.
CPC will do yours next. Because you know how this goes.
Interesting.
First come, first serve. People in the chat get first.
It's like the comment section of a YouTube video. First.
But it's not filled with hateful comments.
Instead, it's full of pony art, and you can't really beat that.
It could be filled with candy.
What about pony art and candy?
Pony heart of candy?
Ooh, candy
that-
horses.
So that's sort of what I'm talking about there. Like those little crescent moon shapes. The first one would be like if you actually drew the lines as a shape, and the second one would be just like a stroke around another shape. The second one is kind of how you're supposed to do it. Sloppy drawing aside. Just because, like, if you draw the whole outline as a stroke, sorry, as a shape, and then you've got to go through and like actually draw the body colors and everything inside that, and it just gets really messy. And anytime you need to change the outline, you've got like two sets of nodes that you've got to move, because it's essentially two lines just creating like a color in the middle that makes one line. That's what you're doing, but like it's that way it's really hard to change anything. So really you just want one single path.
One path to rule them all.
And it's surprising how often I see it. Like whenever I'd see like sort of tutorials on vectoring or like just someone's process on doing something, or like I download a vector of something of a pony and I'll look at it in my program, and I always see the same thing. Is I always see people actually drawing the lines, and it's like I don't know why people are sort of so inclined to do it. I guess it's so they can just I can sort of understand for tracing purposes to get the actual exact like lines, because you're trying to create a vector of an exact image. But when you're drawing an original thing like you have here, it's like I don't really understand. It seems like a lot more work to go through to have less control over your image, if that makes any sense. But anyway, that's a matter of technique that doesn't really have too much to do with the actual picture itself in terms of style or anatomy. Just a comment I wanted to make.
Nee.
Nay. Wait.
Nee.
I don't have any other critique about this. It's still
Mm.
adorable.
Yeah.
Super adorable.
I don't,
I've been
like, if you had any specific questions, there are two like tiny nitpicks I can see. But do you have something, Ellie?
like I said, yeah, I was actually about to say one nitpick, and I guess my only question is the hair. I'm kind of confused what shape you're going for here with having, especially this piece, just
Oh
poking
yeah,
up.
I was looking at that as well. Because it's like it's falling over the head, and it's got like its nice 3D weight, but then that piece makes it look like it's curling back over, and it's like thin, and it kind of confuses us a bit.
Yeah, it kind of makes me feel like you want the swoop across the face, but then suddenly you want the mohawk.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of what I was thinking as well. You explained it better. So
Teamwork.
yeah, it can be hard because it's like oftentimes we sort of try to look at what we have in the show and like the little pieces and shapes they use, and it's like we try to translate that. It kind of reminds me of when you start out and just like making pony crate OCs, and then you try to translate those into like drawing. Kind of a little tough. Like I can see like what you're trying to do with it. I think it's just the way it flows out from the main outline that was bothering Ali.
It's almost like there's like a weird tangent about it all.
I'm a
It
sketch.
kind of like comes out of nowhere. Maybe if it flowed more with the hair, like have it pick up. But right now, it just kind of like goes a complete different direction from the.
Yeah, like if you had it coming out of the hair as its own separate little thing, that's a nice bit of detail. That does help to fill out that otherwise big empty space, and it does make it look more layered. So that's a very good thing. But like, it's only the way it comes out of the outline. It kind of works in opposition. Obviously, the shape I just drew is very like quick and doesn't look as nice as the shape you've got. But just like I would have it detached and flow back around, so you can sort of imagine it layering and like coming out of the same body of hair and then just like sitting on top of it rather than trying to sort of create a complex sort of direction with it. But it's up to you sort of how you want to work it out. But I would definitely recommend like getting, if you haven't done it already anyway, just like get a like you say, you say you've drawn her from the front view, but just have just like the head from different directions, or just the whole body from in like just a basic standing pose from different directions, like front quarter, side, back quarter, and just work out exactly how the hair goes. And trust me, once you've done a design a bunch of times, it just starts to make more and more sense to you the more times you do it, and you just like understand how it all works. But you have a lot more agency on that since it's your OC and not like a show character that you're trying to get right. So you're not trying to figure out how it's supposed to look. You're making up how it looks. If that makes sense. So you can do what you like with it. It's just a case of teaching yourself how you're doing it, and just having an idea that you stick with. Because I'm trying to do that with one of my OC's, Spiral Hoof as well. She's been like one way back from when I like first became a brony, and yeah, when I was using Pony Creator OCs, and she was like a revised one, but I still like made a ref of her with a Pony Creator thing, and like been constantly trying to sort of revise the hair so it makes more. Because now I look at it and I'm like, I have so much more understanding of how to do like mains and stuff that I don't want to work backwards by like trying to translate a Pony Creator thing into actual anatomy. I want to just like make it up myself. So it's sort of a difference in perspective, I guess. But the only other two tiny weeny nitpicks I have, and they're very very small. First one is just that the eyes are very close together, and it sort of has like a very very thin nose bridge, and I feel like you could probably stand to move the eyes further apart a little bit. And the other thing is that where the sort of back leads into the rump, it's like a very sharp lift, like you have like a hill there on the butt, and it feels like it should just be a little bit smoother. But you're not like doing anything too horrible by leaving them the way they are. That's perfectly fine if that's the way you like it. It's just sort of how I would tweak it just to make it look a little bit smoother. But that's all I have.
Sounds about right.
So they said the original had huge eyes. So was this sort of you already trying to fix it? See, the good thing about vectors is it's very easy to tweak stuff like that. I mean, it depends. I don't know how you did the eyes, but for me, whenever I did vectoring, I probably was shooting myself in the foot a bit by doing this. But I'd have the eye as one shape, like I'd have the white, and again I'd split the stroke of the eye, and then I'd use the white to have like like I'd make the iris, the pupil, the highlights, all that stuff, and then I'd group it and use the eye whites as a mask so that it was staying within that area. So it meant I had to make sure that I was moving the mask with the eye. But otherwise, you can just pretty much drag stuff around, and like you got the color underneath. You don't have to worry about messing up the pixels. And you can resize things as much as you want. But unless you had any specific questions for us, I don't know if you guys had anything else.
I'm good here. It's cutie patootie.
Yeah, I'm good.
Also, I like your ear shape. It's very cute. In fact, vectors can be very difficult to figure out, and like I said, they're totally different beasts. They have a whole different approach to them, because instead of like drawing lines and filling color between them, you've got like whole shapes you're trying to layer. And it's like, oh, this comes out from behind here, but then goes back in front of it, the same shape. Like, how do I make that work? And it's always sort of more trying to figure things out intellectually rather than trying to do things with drawing skill. But it's it is very versatile once you do get the hang of it. And I hope you have fun like experimenting with vector stuff in the future.
Yay!
All right, on to the next one.
Sounds good to me.
All right, I have to import it in. One moment, please stand by as I complete this call. There seems to be horses all around the place.
Of course. Of course.
And one raccoon.
Ah, that's big. I should have suspected it'd be big.
Go big or go home.
But I am home.
Oh. Well then see you're all set. Why you whining?
You two are so silly.
Just gonna try and place this right there between all the other art. All right, cute pencil case.
That's cute. I was just wondering, like, I wonder what it is she's drawing on the side. It looks like a dragon, and then boom, it appears. Oh, is it the money dragon you were talking about the other day?
Yeah.
That's cute. I almost thought that was a hot tub at first, and I remembered the conversation the other day, and I noticed they were like coins.
It's pretty adorable.
Little dragon.
So they did talk about, or sorry, she talked about the ears. Think about starting something with him, some kind of mini comic illustration cover. I've been having trouble with the faraway ears, and I haven't drawn him a lot, so anything that looks weird would help. I think
Yeah, I can see where the off ears. I can see what you're talking about. I think they would just need to be drawn out a bit, like make them a little bit longer, because they sort of look like they're folding back a little bit too much. But I don't know. It depends on the size of the head, like the sort of direction, like the position the ears are sitting on the head. Like, are they pointing more backwards or straight out? Because I think the way LD's doing it there is if they were pointed more backwards. I actually think that would go the other direction myself.
I'm just gonna be using the same color too. Maximum confusion.
I have purple. I just don't.
Like
I
I like
usually
really
use blue.
like I really like how CPC has the ears drawn. She posted the reference image she made for the front and back of the dragon. Like I think that works well, and I think the big difference for me that I'm seeing between the two is that actually these front ears, if I can just get my pen on, these guys I feel like are too far forward compared to your reference image.
Mm.
Like they're
Yeah,
encroaching
I
onto the
see that. That
face.
works. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very cute dragon there. But yeah, I agree. I think they should be moved back a little bit, especially where you got like sort of the construction lines. I think that's just, I'm not sure, because there's like the circle for the head, but I can sort of see how the head is bending to the ear. That almost looks like that is the back of the head. So that might be what it is. I do think the circle's all right, but like, maybe move the ears and the back of the head together, like a little bit further back. I'm not sure. I don't know if you saw that as well, Ellie, the little line there.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanna boop it. Boopy boopy boop.
Boop it, boop it.
Mm. We'll
No
boop, not steal coins.
I am dragon. No boops.
Yes, coins will be fine, only boop.
They don't really got much else. I mean, the sketch is looking cute. I don't know if just watch the tail there because it starts out really thin and then gets thick and goes thin again. Looking at your reference, he seems to have a very thick
Yes.
tail, then thins out.
As someone who spent a lot of time drawing
Gotcha.
snakes, that had a lot of practice doing that sort of like long body shape, it can be tricky to get the hang of.
Gotcha. So that's the tail back there. Then I wouldn't make it such a bold line, but I know this is a sketch, so just like have the indentation. You know what you're doing there.
Yeah, and I sort of understood that it was going behind the coins there. It's just sort of more how you imply where it's going. I'll see if I do some sketching.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I don't know if that helps at all. Obviously, made it much more sort of like pointed and angular because I sort of start that way if I'm drawing like a snake or something because their bodies aren't actual tubes. They're sort of like a weird like trapezium shape on top of like another one, and it's like the kind of interestingly shaped. So I always exaggerate into like a very sharp triangle, which does look very dragon tail-ish, and then like soften it as I need to, just to sort of get a very good idea of like, okay, here's the middle, here's where it disappears to. You wouldn't need to do it there. No, it's just sort of like where it curves around. If the middle bit was sort of like racing to a point, as it curves around, it would like, I don't know. It's hard to explain with words, but I did it very drastically. Is all I was saying. Like you don't need to do it that sharp. That's me like figuring out like where it bends.
You okay there, Zamzam?
Yeah, I was just fiddling.
Gotcha.
Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the next one.
Yes, sirree, Bob.
Okie dokie. So, starting up at the top, we have this one by... Who is it? Elite Daddy. Welp, after a few years, I finally made an OC. Kinda. I still needed a color palette. Was thinking golden orangish coat with white hair and green jade eyes. Not sure. Alright, color palettes. Let's talk them. Ponies can be much anything. But that being said, there are things that are less offensive to the eyes. There is a color scheme designer. You'll find it on the sidebar. Here, let's just show everyone what this looks like. So on the side, we have this exterior guides and tutorials. And you will find colors. Grass coloring. Color theory. Color scheme helper. I think that's it. Yes, it is.
Colors can be tricky, but they can also be fun once you sort them out.
So, as far as what your general MLP one is, you either have adjacent or triad colors. They do occasionally fall off of that, but if you just stare at the vast majority of background horses, they're going to fall into one of those two to a varying degree. So, good way to just sort of feel out some of your color theory or color schemes is play with this. You'll find it once again on the sidebar. It is Peloton. I would link it in the YouTube, but I will probably forget by the time it gets around to that. So I'll just keep reminding you, Peloton. All you do is be like, hey, we're going to play with this colors theme. We're going to make up Scootaloo. So we're gonna...
Scootaloo.
We got our orange. And you have the ability to change... How is the hue thing?
The inner circle.
Yeah.
Is what you want to change.
Yeah, anyway, you play with it and you'll get what you're looking for. I think she was actually the adjacent one, though, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, because it's like purpley orange and...
Oh, there you go. Works pretty easy. Get a general idea of what you're going for without trying to blow out your eyeballs.
Yeah.
And then work off that. That's my suggestion as far as colors go. You can also go online and find just people have worked out delicious looking color palettes.
Yes.
Literally just search MLP color palettes and you'll find them. Or even just color palettes.
Yeah, there's like a Tumblr dedicated to just posting color palettes, and they give them.
Yeah, I've been seeing one of the ones I follow started doing that.
It's out there. Tons of great stuff out there. Experiment, do a few. Like, I know something I like to do is that, like, even if you don't have, say, your picture drawn digitally, maybe find, like, because there's a lot of people that have free bases for ponies out there. Just look for a free base, and sometimes it's a matter of just like bucketing in the colors so you get an idea. And like do a mass of them, do a few, do a bunch, alter them slightly, change positions, like have fun with it, play with that color.
Don't be afraid to jump of
To jump off a bridge. No.
Are you Elite Daddy? Are you Pone Drawing? Is that you? I'm slightly confused by the comment.
Me drawing on the sketch right now.
Right, in the chat. Pone Drawings.
Oh, sorry, no. I thought you were saying, are you... Pone Drawing is in actually drawing on the pone. Sorry, I didn't realise there was someone in the chat with that name.
Ah, awesome. Do you have any questions for us then?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're here, so...
First come, first serve.
All right. So what's your question?
Throw the question at our faces. We can take it.
I'm not sure if I'm the only one who feels the head's a little small. I would probably try resizing it. I'm not sure exactly to what scale, but drawing these physical lines I'm doing, that's not a very good idea. I just can't really select the whole thing and scale it up very easily on this.
All right. While you're at your computer, we'll
Yes.
continue drawing a little bit.
So I've only gone over the body. I don't know if Ali or someone else wants to go over the mane tail. I can see a few things while let someone else do that. But I'll
Actually,
wait.
oh, sorry.
I'll just say I'm not sure if we should wait for them to get on the computer or if
We
they're
should
still
probably,
listening. They might still be listening. I don't know.
Send us a sign, pretty please.
I'd wait till they get to the computer.
Yeah.
Do, 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 do.
Do. We need to get someone to make us some waiting music. Some nice elevator, you know.
Didn't all of our music people sort of slowly vanish?
Chicken, Steve?
Is he still around?
Or Blitzy, as they go by now?
Let's see. Yeah, he's still around. He was in my radio show chat for ages, but I don't think he is anymore. So I had him on once for like a interviewee thing.
So,
I'm just trying to resize, see if I can do that. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better, don't you think? I don't want to go too far away from the sketch because it'd be hard to like figure out. Unless I go and resize the sketch as well. But then that's getting a bit overboard, I think. Right, my main question is what's a good way to start a plane for the legs? Oh, you mean like the sort of standing plane, like the square?
Just draw a
Okay,
box.
yeah. I would just sort of draw a box. Perspectives can be hard, but you just sort of get more used to it the more you look at it. So you train your brain to think about it. What I did was more sort of matching up the hooves, and I was doing it to see, and if I'd done it right, I was like, oh, actually, this one needs to be a bit lower. But I think this is very standard, so the box would be very easy. I'll do some sketching in a sec, but I can't actually talk while I'm drawing. But if you're doing something a bit more sort of like foreshortened, like they're sort of more front facing, it might be a bit more distorted. But I'll sketch a couple out just so I can sort of show you.
and I think the most important part is, especially when you're trying to find the position and figure out how the legs get together, starting with the box is super great. But don't let yourself be so stiff with it. Like, do sketching under sketching, really figure out where they would sit, where they would land. I know a lot of the times people try to draw the box and just draw the leg instantly after that, and it doesn't usually end too well. It either becomes stiff or there's some sizing or proportion issues. And you know, ponies are nice to have like a little movement in them, have a little curve to their legs. They don't need to be just like stiff standing there. Give them some life. Sketch that out. Really feel where things can be placed. Don't be afraid to be messy and sketch, because looking at your image, I don't see much construction work wise unless you have a really good eraser, because that could be the case too.
Kind of, yeah. It's sort of like you've really got to sort of just be on your toes mentally speaking. Like it's more about sort of figuring it out in the moment and just making sure to stay attuned to the bigger picture of your drawing. So like you just sort of make sure not to stay too zoomed in. And yes, this is traditional, but you can easily sort of get to like you're leaning into your drawing and working on smaller details. Sometimes it is important just to lean back or zoom out and look at the whole thing, just to make sure you're sort of reaffirming in your head like where you're going, and do that like throughout the picture. So if you go through the entire sketch and look back and say, okay, is the perspective here right? Do I need to fix anything? That's a lot harder to do than sort of doing the base skeleton, for example, like just sort of like the pose, what do you call them, strokes, and then looking back. What's that thing where you sort of have like a big stroke to sort of generally define
Action
where
line?
yeah, action lines, and there was like something else as well that was like sort of just to sort of define where the body's going without actually like drawing it. I don't know, but action line.
Instruction lines?
I can't remember the name. There was this thing where it's like you sort of just, oh, here's an action line with some legs coming out of it. You know, just something to sort of like this is where the.
Oh, gesture?
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Gesture, yeah. Just so, if you're doing gesture drawing, action lines, stuff like that, you're under sketching skeletons. Do whatever stage you do first, and then you like zoom out. Say, okay, is the perspective looking right? Yeah, just like that. Because then you can. That's the beautiful gesturing. Then you can sort of look back and say, okay, like maybe this needs to be shorter, this needs to be longer, this needs to be further over, and it really helps you figure things out before you get too booked into it. Oh yes, key pencil case. I was going to get onto that, but you definitely do it. Yeah, so working out as you go is better than sort of trying to fix it in advance. Sorry, in retrospect. But it's just sort of keeping your idea in your head of like where you want the image to be positioned and shaped.
Mm-hmm.
It's really more. I mean, it isn't really much of a science. It is more of just like thinking.
A lot of the times you hear there's quote unquote rules of art. They're more like guidelines and suggestions, things that like people have used this strategy in the past and it was successful. So I always suggest trying the quote unquote art rules whenever you sort of hear something like that. But they're all just methods, and there's 1,002 times infinity methods in art. So never hold yourself back from experimenting or trying something else or being too strict.
Because yeah, you can try following the rules, and it might give you a better understanding of like why they exist and what they mean. And then if you really feel like it's hindering you, you can walk away from it. Just continue doing what you're doing. Maybe you can try it again in the future when you have a bit more understanding and you have this sort of like fresh eyes towards it. And then if it's still not working, then whatever. But it's a really good sort of learning experience.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole idea is that why reinvent the wheel when someone solved the problem? Sometimes just like following the quote unquote art rules or art. What I'm not sure what to call them. This is the things you commonly hear people say, like you should do that or you should do this or you, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like it's you don't always have to adhere to those rules so strictly. They are just kind of usually rules. Is it rule of thumb? Is that what you're saying? What are you thinking of? Yeah, because it's sort of like a concept that you should sort of think about and consider, but you don't necessarily need to adhere to it exactly.
But give it a chance. Give it its fair chance. And I guess I'll quick speak for CPC, talking about the fluff there.
Although I drew that, but she wanted me to.
My apologies.
She telepathically drew through me. she was drawing the stuff in the bottom right. I just drew the actual pony.
The colors are so similar. I couldn't tell. But I love that there's fluff and tufts of hair. But unless it's a really, really matted fur, the hair won't go the opposite direction of everything else. It's usually gonna puff out and go the same direction, and it'll have that volume.
And gravity.
And have the gravity pushing down on it. But yeah, usually if hair is going straight up like you have it out of the chest, it's probably going to be the entire fur of the creature is very matted and crazy and like going every which direction. So it's better to keep the flow, going in one direction.
Shampoo the fluff.
Shampoo the fluff. Brush it out, You got to brush your pony.
Brushy brush.
Brush.
Yeah, Kipensky's got a good idea there of sort of like where the fur flows.
And even if you look at pictures of like animals' faces or their bodies close up, you can see the direction of the fur.
Even plushies do, but that's more to do with paneling, I think.
Yeah, it all depends on which way the fabric was put on.
But it's still an interesting like reference.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But yeah. Otherwise, I looked a lot at the body. I think one of the first things I noticed was that's a very spiky hock. Like the back part where the leg sort of juts out at the back. It does not need to go up that high or be that spiky. Like it's almost a knife. Yeah, it like CPC is doing there. It's a very gentle sort of curve. It goes like down and down again, like she's doing there. It's easy to sort of look at it initially as being like, oh, it goes down, then it spikes out and then shoots down again. But like, it's really sort of thinking about how the bones form and then how the muscles form on top of that, you know. So the way I did it was a lot smoother. I also sort of brought the inner thigh forward a bit because it again sort of it isn't really going to be that tightly wrapped around. It's just sort of more of how it hangs off the body. Just sort of softer because I mean, you know, ponies are meant to be soft. Everything about the curves, it's not just like the fluff. The curves are soft. Everything is like just very gentle. Everything works into and from around each other in a very gentle manner. So it's nothing's like in contrast or fighting against it. Like everything comes out from everything else in like a really nice way that kind of feels natural. So that's what you want to go for. The front legs as well, they were like coming out and then hanging down, like bending downwards in a way that doesn't really make sense for horses. So I sort of very loosely, roughly, sort of put an idea of where the shoulder would be, and then went out from there. And the legs will curve forwards, at least how we sort of tend to have them in MLB stuff anyway. Um, so if you have the shoulder at the side there, sort of a little bit further in to the body, and then the leg will come down. I sort of drew them both together, but you've done that anyway. Just sort of so they make more sense to how the body looks. And again, that is something that, you know, I got used to overdoing, like how the chest curves down and how the back leg curves out into the front leg. You know, like I was saying, it all flows into and around each other. And the ear too, like I sort of like looked at where it was placed. Like, okay, it should be sort of over here because you don't want it like over the eye or the temple. You know, there's going to be a gap there. It's going to be on like the back of the head, the side, as opposed to like over the eye. So I just sort of moved that back. I probably did it a bit too big, but I couldn't really be bothered to draw it again. You can just resize it. It's just a suggestion of the place anyway. Like obviously it's a different style to how you did it. And the nose I just sort of looked at because the bridge was like shooting back into the face, as opposed to bent. Again, I drew it very quickly. I think I did it going up a bit too sharply, whereas it would sort of curve back towards the skull. But it sort of at least needed to have the bridge of the nose there going up and then around rather than just going straight towards the hairline. And just sort of looking at where the middle of the muzzle and chin fall, as opposed to looking at sort of where the middle of the head is, so that they're not sort of shooting off to the side as well. And the last thing was the main, apart from it does like the rump and how it leads into the back of the head as well. But there's like the mane, which you actually done something which we talk about often, which is how the mane is supposed to flow out from like a particular point. So that was good. It's just I think it was a bit too sharp, like it really jutted straight out. And it might be, looking at the mane, it might be that it's just like a style, like it's just like it's that kind of mohawky, like it's just like folded over. So that's fine if that's how just literal mane style works. I was just sort of assuming it was just like flowing out from like this point, so you can disregard that if the main style is sort of like a mohawk flopped over. I was just sort of like giving an example of how it would flow out from the point at the back of the head, a bit more naturally and smoothly rather than sort of jutting sharply into things.
Like if I could make a suggestion for the hair, I'm just doing a quick pony head next to it.
You're really good at manes, so.
For mohawks, I know if you look at a lot of the show style mohawks, like the out of the main six, you have Rarity, Pinkie Pie, and Fluttershy.
I didn't think about Pinkie Pie. Honestly, like wet hair or Pinkie Mina.
She has like really curly hair, but everything
kind of does follow
it's like a mohawk.
Yeah. It's just not the sort of flopping over the head kind. But yeah, you're right.
She's defying gravity hair.
Except when her hair is wet or sad.
Yeah.
In which case it's very flop over the side of the head, and you get a very good example of how to do that, which I have used as reference.
So like something that's really great is when we do our head dissection. I don't know if you ever look on the subreddit or really any kind of how to draw MLP tutorial. Usually they'll break the head down into a ball and then they'll cut it up. So we'll have usually like a cross section, kind of like I took this stroke here and this stroke here to find the center of the direction I want the face to face. And then all you can do is just take that circle all the way back and you kind of see this line up here, not where I'm drawing, but right above it. This is the line where the mohawk will sit. So you can kind of get that flow. And instead of just having it come straight out the back like this, usually it'll flow back. It won't be such a harsh, like, jetting out and over. Usually there's a nice flow because hair's heavy, especially that long of a hair. It's going to have gravity against it. So even if you want, like, a super stiff mohawk, you're still going to have a bend to it, especially if it's falling over the side. And you can still get that like the break in the back, like we were talking about, that we love that you had this, like, coming out two ways. But yeah, it's just something to consider and think about next time. Think about how heavy the hair would actually be. Have that gravity force down upon it.
So they said I'll read out the whole comment for the video purposes, but they said big razor and 4H pencils what I sketch with. Go with gravity. I think I understand. Thank you all so much for the help. Also, I see what you mean about the body type. You don't want an edgy bony, but actually you can't really use refs where when I draw, being a junior in high school. So I was going to reply to was so like you can't, like, you have like the locked websites and everything, because also not being able to look up like images of ponies is very like locked, unless you just don't have like computers at your high school. I don't know, like every school is different, the rules are always different. For mine, they were like usually pretty loose on what websites you could so like you can only physically go on the computers in class. Is it listen, they're in the front of the class, so I guess everyone can see them. I just sort of like had computer suites and stuff. Well, I could, if you have any other form of computer, like anywhere, like even just like going down to a local library or something, you can like print out pictures of like, just get references and print them out, and then like use those just like sneakily.
The other thing is, before you were watching Picarto on your phone, so I can assume you can use your phone to look up references.
Because that's what I was going to suggest as well, but I wasn't sure if they had internet on it or not.
And I know, even if you can only draw in class, I'll say if you want to improve, you're going to have to start drawing outside of class where you can actually focus on drawing. It's fun to doodle in class, and it's fun to like put stuff you've learned to it, but to actually learn the anatomy and, improve yourself by learning from references, you're going to have to draw outside of class.
I would say, like, whether or not you like sort of you can do both, but like, actually looking up references on your phone as you're drawing, and or saving references in advance when you do have a quiet moment with internet, and actually like having a little, like, don't have to be big pictures, but just have like a little stock on your phone so that you could just have just a few like emergency references.
It could even be like one guide on a pony anatomy.
Yeah, but like just having some just like little screenshots from the show or something can help immensely, just to sort of try and get the style out there. And then you can just, I'd say some of the most fun times I've ever had is just finding a quiet little spot and just sitting and like doing some drawing for a while. Just like, you don't have to be in like a busy place. You can just sort of go off and just have some nice time.
And if you can't say draw at home, I took some school for art. I mean, if you're going to a school for art, I'd say if this is like an art class, you do your own drawings beforehand. No problem with bringing your own references.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be too. I do understand, like, junior in high school, obviously, like so that's a pretty heavy situation. But like, if it is sort of like a technical art school, that's probably a little bit different than a like mainstream high school. But I'd say just try not to be too worried about like what other people think. I don't know. I'm assuming here based on what you're saying about sort of being at the front of class and stuff, and so you sound like you're sort of more worried about drawing in public, specifically because you're drawing ponies, but that might not be the case. But even if it is, then you don't need to worry so much about like what you're doing and who's around, because you're drawing something you love, and that's what matters.
And even bigger life hack, did you know the My Little Ponies are based on horses. So if you are not okay with having MLP references, you can go out and print out a bunch of horses. That is going to be a great reference for you.
That sounds like it needs to be a card. That's a funny quote. But
Did
yeah,
you know?
putting out a bunch of horses. But no, I in college the last time I was there, I was doing this digital art course. I actually had this little book thingy I got for class, and I actually ended up getting one myself because I really liked it. I haven't used it enough, but I liked it because it had like a little slot at the back with like this little drawer sort of pocket. And I just like filled it with reference images. I just printed out a bunch of stuff and I just slotted all these little images in there. So I just had a bunch of physical like printed out references that I could just have in this little sketchbook and just like pull out. I wish it worked better as a sketchbook. Unfortunately, it's one of those sort of like actual book bound things, so you couldn't stretch the pages open very far. But like that was the only problem I have with it. But it was nice actually just having physical pages for a child. Usually when I'm drawing out on the go, I use my phone. And it's like, oh no, the screen's turning off, and it's too small.
Yeah.
Now I need a different reference, so I can only have one on the screen at a time.
So yeah, I guess to sum that all up,
Yeah.
practice outside of class. That's really the best way to do this, especially if you don't feel comfortable having references in class.
It definitely is valuable using references if there's any way you can though, because like I will say it's so worth it. Like I remember it was one of my earliest drawings. I'd drawn a picture of Pinkie Pie and a character I'd made up, like an OC, and so I'd drawn a picture of them, and like the OC was okay. The Pinkie Pie I was struggling with a lot, and it was just like really not looking right, but I couldn't figure out how or why. And then I went and I was like, okay, now I'm going to try like using a reference, because this was like a good example I used because I was not I'm much more familiar with drawing Pinkie Pie now. Like I draw her a lot, but so it's fine now. But like that's after drawing her 100 times. At the time, I'd only maybe done it like 2 or 3 times, so I didn't really know. Even though I'd drawn her before, I kind of got into that trap mindset of like, I've drawn her before, I should know how to do it, But no, if you've drawn her 100 times, if you've drawn a character 100 times before, then you kind of have an excuse. If it's only like a handful of times, then no. But so I was like, oh, I should be able to draw it without reference. So I tried, and it wasn't working. So I didn't use any reference at all. Then I did it again with an image in the exact, because it's just like a side view pose. I was able to find a pretty close reference and just had it right next to it. Looked at it and studied how the lines and curves went. And yeah, it's not perfect. It was probably horrible by my standards now, but it was so much better than the original, the first draft. I compared them and it's just like, wow, I did so much wrong without realizing it was wrong. It's always worth it.
All right.
Yeah.
Move on to the next one? Or do you have any more
good to me.
questions, Pone?
And if you do, you can always keep asking. We might just move on though to keep things going.
Yeah, and we can just respond in the chitty chat. I think we're done sort of sketching over this anyway.
I did make a comment, or I did draw over the tail and did make a comment about it. Tail just moved up, so it's not poop butt tail.
Yeah.
The purple line is the spine that follows it, just sort of moves across the top of the back. So the tail just follows that. Simple, easy mistake. Everyone has made it.
We have mentioned it in like every crit stream that I can remember for the past ages.
Alright, so this next one is by Moon Butters. Thank you. I did a thing, but how did I do on the thing? Any pointers, tips, or help would be appreciated.
I think one of the first things that pointed out to me in my head, it wasn't an anatomy thing because there are a lot of stuff we can get into with that. First of which being planes, which we talked about in the last image. But before that, first thing I noticed is, and it's probably an unfortunate thing because of the sort of name's theme of the pony being, was it brass lock?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I got that right. I had to scroll up a little bit to see the name. It's just like the padlocks are very close color to the body, and it's very invisible from a distance. Like it sort of blends too much into the body, and just like it becomes like an orange spot, and you can't really see it. If you don't want to change either the coat color or the padlock color, which I would totally understand that you want to keep them. Obviously the padlock needs to be brass, and like I can understand you don't want to change your pony's coat color. Maybe do like a white circle around the padlock or something like that. Well, not exact white, but something just sort of around the padlock to sort of differentiate it from the body, give it something to like separate it. That's just my personal suggestion. You don't have to follow that.
All right. So my first thing to say to you is don't forget your references.
Yeah.
References are magic. Why? Because they help you identify a lot of the simple errors just by referencing and comparing. Things like missing ears, muzzle shape, these weird lines here. Necks don't form a sharp corner. Necks are smooth things. They're just flesh moving into flesh. So to form a sharp corner, it's very odd. So smoothing out things like on the neck to the head, useful things to remember. It also helps you compare your body size to it to get an idea of proportions if you're going for MLP proportions. I will say your legs look fine. They're basically plucked right from the show what it appears to be. They look fine.
I'm going to assume he's kind of
just
stepping forward. I'm not sure if he's in walking position, but that's kind of what it looks like to me.
All right. So as I was saying, the body looks fine. The legs look good. The body's just a little tall. You can see the circles that I think Ellie. Question mark?
Not me.
Okay, Zai drew.
Me, sorry.
He drew two tall ovals. Generally, we're talking just circles. Circles like, yo, son. Circles.
I mean, I do oval. Sorry, I would say, yeah, the circles are a more basic thing to get the body position. I do the ovals because that's me, like actual horse anatomy that I'm used to doing, and it's sort of a better idea to get the shape of the chest and the butt because they have like a particular shape to them. So that's sort of a habit I have from actual horses. Sorry. For ponies, I think you can easily use like the two circles. It's something I am more used to doing because it sort of helps me get a better idea of the actual like shape. But that's because I need less like strict guides, I think. I don't know. It all depends on what you're used to and what sort of works for you. One technique might not work.
Your mic's attacking our ears.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why that happened. I was just saying one thing might not work, whereas another might. It all depends on the person.
You mean just one thing? Yes, you can also use the jelly bean. So I've just moved up a tail, same as the last critique from Poem Drawings. Tail follows the spine. That thing. Comes out the behind. Top of the behind. If it goes any lower, it kind of looks like they're pooping out the tail. And I don't think that's the goal.
Actually, if they're walking, I'm not sure if they are supposed to be walking again, but if they are, I think this back leg should be in a different position. Let me do some more sketching.
Sketchy to sketch. I would just... It looks like you're trying to go for the Big Mac sort of muzzle going on here. So I would just go and square it up a little more like this. Pull it down because the front of the muzzle is actually longer than the jaw. The jaw pulls inwards in MLP. You can get that from your references. But if we pull the bottom of the jaw in and extend the front a bit, as you can see with this maroon sort of color here, we get a more Big Mac-like muzzle. One last thing from my point of view is the eyes. Well, don't use black. Let's use a color here. So
yeah, even for pupils, sometimes you can just go like slightly off black. The movie definitely does. I don't think the show does, but I don't know. I think with the show it's exactly black, but like the movie has like a gradient fade.
Yeah, a little bit. I would just make them slightly bigger. They're very sharp, like rarities, which is fine, or rarities or twilights. It's fine, but they still make up the sharpness by having larger eyes. MLP eyes are very big. Don't forget the second.
That's why it's so hard to find really good 3D models of MLP ponies.
They don't work.
They don't. Yeah, they're so big. They have no brain. It's just eyeball in there.
Some of the best 3D models are the Source Filmmaker ones, the new high texture or high whatever.
I was never a huge fan of the Source Filmmaker ones, but at least they do kind of work enough. But like, there's some newer ones people have made with, I think, Blender models that are really nice, and they actually look a lot more show style.
Those are all in Source Filmmaker because you can
Are
import
they?
from
Those were
Blender.
Blender models.
Yeah, the one guy who does the really really nice models.
Like the nice Pinkie Pie ones and stuff.
Yeah, I'll post a picture and I'll try to find it, but
Yeah,
they're
the jumping animations and like the icing, the tongue one. I can't remember. I have a couple of them favorited on Debbie.org, because I find it quite hard to find them.
You can import those. You can import Blender models, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, that might be why.
Okay.
So I swear I remembered someone talking about making them in Blender or like DeviantArt or something. But yeah, it might be.
Yeah. So your legs. You were doing the legs there?
Yeah, I was just sort of trying to figure out. I'm not very good at the whole lifted up back leg pose, but I was looking at a walk cycle reference from the show for this. There are obviously different points where the legs are going to be at different positions. So if one's not working, look at another one. I was just sort of the rhythm in which horse legs move is quite tricky. And again, looking at actual references can help a lot as well. Like actual horse references. But you can also look at the pony refs as well, just for a general idea, which has helped me in the past. But if it's not working, try other things. But just looking at sort of where the legs are supposed to be seated, I assumed that they were walking just based on the fact that like the legs were like the front leg was like placed so much further in front of the back leg. So that's my assumption. If it wasn't, feel free to just like work out the pose differently. But that was just my trying to sort of give suggestions and help if that was what you were trying to do. And I sort of looked at the plane they're sitting on to sort of help align the hooves a bit better. So I can see you've got the shadow there, but it just kind of something about it, the positioning of the legs, like where the hooves were in the shadow, just kind of threw me off perspective wise. So I don't know. I was just trying to fiddle with it.
All right, shall we move on?
Yeah. Oh, and just same as the last one as well. Like the legs sort of came down quite thin and then jutted out really far on the hook. At the back, it really should be smoother than that. So same as the last picture, really, for that.
It appears this one has been graffitied.
So was this one before we got to it, and then all the graffiti was mysteriously disappeared.
I don't know how that would happen. Freaking adorable is what it is. DJ Thed. I don't know who that is. Do you know?
That's the 3D artist. I posted in the Discord their DA with an example.
Look how amazing. We have music?
Yeah, because KT is amazing.
It's now playing.
Oh yeah, that's the Pinky model I was. No, I think it's one of the Pinky models I was thinking. I was actually thinking of a different one, but that's nice as well. I'll try and find the one I was looking at.
Alright, well, we aren't waiting because can someone give me any tips on this piece? Mainly on the legs by Buttmaster. I was so excited to say that name.
I've been waiting all day for this. So I think right off the bat, especially talking about legs, my biggest problem is this leg right here. It's a super mini itty bitty shrunken leg. Super shrunk. I think the important thing to remember is just like you have this grid drawn here, the same thing's gonna apply the higher you go. So say, get an eraser. Let's use the knee. So we're doing the same angle, you know. So the knee won't. Gosh dang, this program doesn't like to be nice, you know.
Just punch it.
There's gonna be the same idea of the box applied. Like we move this box up. You know, if we had a ruler, what you could do is measure everything just this one time to get like a precision look to it. But yeah, so we have something like that, maybe a little higher there. But that's where the knee would go. It'd be way up because we're looking at this extreme angle. Now, personally, I think this might be too extreme of an angle for where it's standing and how the body is, because the body is very much like a side view that we're looking straight onto, but the legs are on this bent field, like it's almost like a ramp instead of a flat piece of ground. So, kudos to doing square, but you don't have to make it as steep a square. Just, why does the color keep changing on me?
And yeah, that happens to me a lot. And also, like, I feel ponies. I don't feel like it's very natural to stand with all of their hooves exactly in a perfect like square. For one thing, it'd be more like a rectangle, I think. But I think because their hooves would actually be closer together, not like touching, but like they. I think they would only be standing that far apart if they were deliberately trying to spread their body weight, like if they were standing on ice or something, you know. I think naturally the legs would curve a little bit more inward. I don't know. I think it's just how I see it anyway.
No, I hear you. It's a good thing to start off with, but definitely don't cling to it. Like you
Yeah, it's
have
good to see you like actually like just trying it because it's a good thing to sort of build up your understanding of perspective.
little stick line. What are you giggling at?
The mouse saying move and magicking the image away. I'm sorry, it's funny.
That's really funny.
I mean, I like the body and the head; those are great. But
Yep.
the legs could use some work.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Grab your references, as we said. Your references are going to come in handy. My favorite place to grab references from is just start up an episode of MLP and watch it until you find a pose you like, and then pause. If you can't find a pose you like, that's fine too. Just find a pose of them standing around, because that means they aren't stretched or modified in any weird way, and use that, because you can still reference and compare from just a horse standing around.
So a way I found that's sometimes quite helpful to find references is I just go on Dopey Bro and I type like the character and then like just standing pose or jumping or whatever like pose. Sometimes you can find what you're looking for if you've got something specific in mind.
So, just really quick, I wanted to just like give another reason why the angle was a little too much. This is very much eyeballing. You can do this much better with rulers and like precise tools. Like I said, you don't need to stick to such precision. This is just a good way to demonstrate and see and compare.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, so basically this top portion of the box, that's her back. That like obviously it would be higher, but we would see that much of her back, and right now we only see the side of her body.
Yeah.
So
That's what I was thinking of, like why the legs be close together, because the body is a bean. It's a little thin bean.
But yeah, that's another thing to keep yourself aware of, that some angles trying to put yourself on the ground are going to be too much. You just bring the box up. See how it would feel as like a tall box. If it's like too much, then you know you need to tone down the square a bit. Unless you want an angle like this where you see the back of the pony like that. But yeah, just wanted to demonstrate.
Yeah, I also, as I was saying, like I just this, I think the problem is just like the square would probably be bigger than like wider than what the body is. That's just what I meant by it.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, there's like the perspective of how the body is shaped. And obviously, that perspective will change as like view does. So, like, yeah, like if we're seeing the body from the side directly, then we might be seeing the hooves from like above and maybe the head from underneath, and by how much depends on how sharp the perspective is. And you can really push that to create a really big like sharp view, like as if you're really close to the pony, or you can soften it and it looks like we're much further away. The difference in those angles can really like make the how we're looking at the character.
Yeah. Otherwise, like I said, lovely head, lovely body. totally see why you asked for leg help. Hope this helps. You got this next time. Love to see your
Yes.
work next time.
Absolutely.
Next picture, you'll have a leg up on it.
Ah! This is quality content, people. It's quality content.
Quality.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's got fluffy.
Noof.
All right, then the last one we have is first attempt at a digital drawing. Got he bamboo tablet. No idea how to shade. Oh! Don't drop your pen
Man down, man
or
down.
do much of anything. It's by Oswald. I think is how you're supposed to pronounce that. I'm just going down, digging. Here we go. Hey, pen, found you again. You still good? All right.
Thank gosh. All right.
So
So,
the critique on this one. You know what it looks like? Did you use the Hasbro images as the Hasbro promotional image as the reference? Because what they do on the Hasbro images is your muzzle is basically their promotional piece here.
Yeah.
They do sharp muzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really bugs
They're
me.
not nice. They're not very high quality materials. Those.
which is funny. They have so much good now, and they still stick to those.
Yeah, they have so much good better stuff. And what's even weirder is that you see this especially in like the comics they have in the magazines and stuff, but like in other places too, they'll mix it up. So sometimes they'll have like vectors from the show. Sometimes they'll have vectors that are actually good that aren't from the show. Like this is one of Dashi, just totally adorable. And then they'll just still use the really crappy old ones or new ones that make even less sense, like that Flory Heart one that just made me want to call it.
CPS.
We don't talk about that.
Exorcist is what I was thinking. But yeah, like sometimes it's weird. Like they have such a weird like diversity between like the really bad quality stuff and like actual good show stuff. So I don't know, it's weird. But I definitely used the show references, or better yet, the movie references.
Yeah, love pushing those beautiful movie style.
They really revised it and just like they spent a lot of time working on like just how to perfect it and how to make it look even better than it does in the show. So it really is like the updated show stuff, you know. They did a good job with it.
I swear we're not sponsored by the movie.
No, we just love it.
I am.
Whoa.
Is this how you afford us pizza sometimes?
No, that's by selling other people's kidneys.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, at least it's other people's and not your own.
Oh, so you give away hearts, but then you know, then the asterisks start coming. It's how to get you.
So yeah, jumping back to the image.
What?
What art? So basically what I did was, this is more of a 3D muzzle, more of like something we talk about a lot for building muzzles is building a box on the face to help kind of get that 3D aspect and form of like a muzzle on a face. I know a lot of the show feels very 2D at times, and sometimes you just rely on overlap and such. So if you are going for a more show style, I would definitely just keep taking on that material if that's what you want. But if you want to push it a little more, give your pony a little more form and liveliness, because sadly the difference between the show and drawing is that the show is animated, so they get a lot more out of their 2D look, where just drawing kind of falls way more into the 2D realm because it's not moving, it's just happy little pony standing there. So sometimes it's nice to get some form and 3D feel to it. Yeah, so the size of your head actually I think is really great. I just drew a circle around it and it feels great, which is something that usually we see a lot of trouble with, like the head will be more oval or stretched or squished, when really just want to keep to that ball, that circle shape. So that's nice. Other than that, I think maybe pulling your ear back because it's so close to the eye, they kind of have some separation. Think of it's coming out like the back side of the head. Boop. And then a little simple ear. Little ear. Boop doo. Simple. Just stuff like that. I love that you gave her an expression. Love that. That's all really I have to say about the head. Who's next?
Uh, I just enlarged the body a bit to match what the head is. So the front is a little wide, and then the back is a little too thin. The rump is actually larger than their front section, so we're actually just going to reverse those two roles, and it'll help thin out that neck a bit to stop her from being like a baseball player, one of those roided up ones. Once that's all done, we get back to the lovely little traditional Fluttershy. Honestly, do your next picture. Just use those references, eat up those pictures, go do 10, 20, 30, and then come back and be like, hey, I did your 10 or 20 or 30. Here's what I have. Any more critique? Or even better, I have some questions about this. How do I make this? We love those
Like,
questions.
if you have any questions about the tablet and stuff, I know people have been super helpful on the subreddit before for people who, work on the tablet. But yeah, if this is your first drawing, I think you're off to a really good start. Just gonna need to use it more. Tablets are a whole game of just getting used to using a tablet. So just give yourself time to get used to it. Sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes months. I mean, I'm in the months category. It took me a while to get used to that whole disconnect, because that's always fun to get used to when you're so reliant on like staring at the connection of your hand on the paper. All that fun stuff.
But now
Yeah,
you have the
please keep at it.
non-disconnect, don't you?
Well, yeah, I do, but I use both. I use both now, and I'm comfortable with both. So, and even with the like a pen display, it still throws you off because it's not 1-to-1. There's always going to be that little bit of disconnect that you make up for. But yeah, go on to your next drawing. Do awesome. This is great that you're drawing. Woo!
Woohoo!
All right. And then we have another picture. Just gotta... I made some space for us down at the bottom here.
Look at you go, being prepared.
Prepared. I'm still on the wrong layer.
Oh, that pinky at the bottom is cute.
We're just gonna paste over top of the pinky.
No,
it's adorable.
She has a little cutoff problem now that the
Yes, you can move. I imagine like one of those old like road runners or stuff, also cartoons like that, where it's like they suddenly realize the floor's moved and they're like, oh god, and then fall.
Zamzam saved it.
Yay! Did you draw the pinky, Ali?
I did.
It's so cute.
No, thank you. Thank you. Oh, we got a cute patootie Octavia though.
Yes.
Dang it, CPC.
Oh my gosh.
You know how much rendering time that would take on top of it? Worth it.
What did she?
She fluffed the image you posted. Alright, so this one was posted in our Reddit by Potential Red.
They also poked
Or
us in
not,
Discord.
sorry, I mean Discord. The better place.
The better place, okay.
They're typing now. It's better because I'm there more often.
True that.
So they are asking perspective and shading, as well as the eyes. So I assume the horse is sick, because I think that was the...
That's what I got.
Yeah.
Kind of like that blushy fever.
Yeah, with the bubbles.
Having a problem with that muzzle. The muzzle looks...
It's a very long face.
It's side muzzled. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, Allie's got it. She's got it. Look at those fluffy ears.
Those ears are cute.
And he's on the book.
So yeah, your face is definitely more curved. So those are huge eyes. Make those eyes. And we would see not the bridge of the nose, but there'd be some overlap from this perspective, in my opinion. So you just kind of like get that little bump in. it's hard to see. I need to up my pen size since this image is slightly bigger than all our other images.
Are you doing an Octavia?
It's adorable.
So much.
Really love the hip on here. That hip is great. Actually, the bodies and legs on just wonderful things. This tail, however, looks like it's supposed to be falling over the side of the bed, which is awesome. So make it fall over the side of the bed. If you're taking something as clothes-like as hair, it's just going to disappear when it falls down and then get the little tail at the end kind of thing. Especially with the angle we're on, because we're roof tabby. We're just sort of staring down. Or I guess roof vinyl. Vinyl is in Tavi's roof, just sort of staring down at her.
Ceiling vinyl is
there we go.
stalking you.
That's what I'm looking for. Ceiling, not roof. We're gonna make her tail just fall off of the end here, abruptly, and then we can use little bits just to sort of stick out at the bottom. And if you're to use the shading of a bit darker down at the bottom, it'll give it that impression, especially with the way the shadows are cast. You had questions about your shadows? I think they work perfectly in here. I'll go darker on the body here, so we can match the darkness that we have imitated on the bed, because your values of dark should be around the same. Best way to tell on this, throw it to grayscale. Bring it to grayscale. If you find the values are matching, then awesome. Cool. You can go back to it and bring it back to color. If you find they aren't, now you know what to adjust. Unfortunately, I can't do that on this program to show you what that looks like, but just believe in me. Bringing stuff to grayscale works.
Terrible. I'm sorry. As for the coloring and shading, I really enjoy it. I kind of get this like watercolory feel to it. The only thing I would say is be a little more clean, because a lot of the time we see things bleeding over, like especially over this drawer. A lot of things are bleeding into each other, like these knob browns are coming out and kind of things are leaking all over the place, like it's kind of coming onto the bed and things like that. Like you have the body and the bed pretty nicely separated. Try to make everything else like that too. It doesn't have to be extremely clean, but having like these big globby like paint overs is a little, especially since you start having like this detailed floor here, it kind of becomes less messy. So maybe go for a little more like color change in the wood as well, instead of just kind of having a single color wood and little streaks in it. Because like if you look at a floor, it's not all just one color. Never is. Any kind of wood floor. Unless it's like one of those super factory produced floors. But they're not as fun feeling. Let's go with natural wood. Natural wood always feels better in art. But yeah, I almost feel like I almost want to cut this corner out. Like this whole area feels like it's taking.
You could probably
my
stand to crop a little bit, but yeah.
Because like you get this like sudden dark corner here. It's like my eye is drawn to that over Octavia currently, because redder. We're usually drawn to red, so that's why me personally. That's why it's taking my attention. So yeah, I might just consider just cutting that right off. Yeah. Any other questions? Anyone else have anything to say?
Not really. I was just doodling faces.
Yeah, I got nothing. It's a wonderful picture. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask us later when you go and stare at this video.
Oh, can they not listen?
Yeah, they had to run.
Aw, okay, cool. Hopefully, yeah, like I said, any questions, feel free to ask. Same with asking in Discord or Reddit or wherever works.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Anyone else have any art they would like critiqued? And actually thinking back on this picture a little bit, I would also just consider looking up how folds work, like folds in the fabric,
Mm.
because there's a lot going on the bed,
Yeah,
especially
I'd
with the
say
pillows as
I was
well.
gonna say that I like some of the ideas you got going on with the rug. I do sort of get the impression of a thin fabric, if that helps. But like, I do like the idea of what you're sort of doing that, and I sort of get the impression you've looked at references for the rug. I don't know, but yeah, the bed could use a bit more. I don't even know if it's just sort of too much going on, but it just needs to be sort of more organized mess, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
where the creases are going needs to be more directed rather than at the moment that they're sort of all over the place, which I think is what more of what Ali was thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, there it's like you have such clean lines other places, but then you have like patches like this where it's just kind of feels like a scribble rather than folded cloth. And the
Yeah.
same with the pillows, there's just a lot of lines. They don't necessarily feel like they're flowing or
Mm.
interacting like a cloth would. Cloth fabric and cloth,
It's
all that stuff
hard, but
is hard.
yeah.
It's really hard. Like I honestly applaud you trying this, doing this. Like I said, it's super cute picture. Just, something to push yourself on next time.
Hmm.
Good old CPC.
Yeah, CPC, the best graffiti pone.
Oh, now
Anyway,
she has to make a
otherwise,
graffiti pono soon.
yeah, I do really like some of the coloring. I love how the drawers look. Like it's very sort of like nice pastel-y storybook sort of coloring. Yeah, I would just sort of think about the sort of aspects of consistency that the others were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't really have anything.
Yeah. Good here.
The only other thing, because I don't think anyone mentioned it audibly, was Katie in the chat says that she thinks the bubbles and hearts are kind of unnecessary and in conflict with the drawing style. Just the expression would work, in my opinion, and I kind of agree with that a little bit. I did think the bubble, I do like using those sort of like expressiony things, but like to an extent, and after a while they kind of become a bit like a bit too much. And I think if you're going for something like, if it's just like a headshot with like no background, you can go nuts with it. But if it's
Yeah.
something like this where you got there's a lot of perspective here, there's a lot of atmosphere, so we're looking at this scene, so it feels kind of weird to have like emotes that aren't actually there, because that's like, how would those be manifesting? Like, she's not even a unicorn, she can't cast random bubble and heart spells. Like, so it's just kind of sort of thinking about what we're seeing and why we're seeing it, and like what kind of makes sense in the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree with KT how it also kind of feels like it clashes. It conflicts with the
Like,
whole
yeah,
style.
the eyes and the blush and everything, like the expression in general just does enough. You've got the floppy ears, you got the cute, like the way the face is very mellow, works a lot. So you don't need to set yourself back by like just trying too hard to force emotions, because you're showing the emotion with the expression is really what you need for the emotion. I mean, you've already got like the context of her like laying back on the bed. She's really relaxed. She's like snuggling a pillow. Her legs are very like loose, and I like the posing there. It's you've got the body language, you got the facial language, and that's really what you need to tell a story, rather than like forcing emoticons.
Yeah, and if you want to push the expression further, give your pony some eyebrows. But really though, like
Oh yeah.
eyebrows help really push an expression sometimes.
Yes.
I know ponies don't normally have them, but as like humans, we see full facial features that includes the eyebrow. So to convey something in a powerful way, you want to try to hit all the major facial features.
At least ponies have their ears.
Yeah, they have their ears too. That's true.
And they have eyebrows when their eyes are lowered. It's just like when they're fully open, they don't.
That's
For some
true.
reason.
Pony logic.
But you can. There's nothing stopping anyone as an artist from drawing eyebrows, even if they otherwise have a completely show style. You can still draw eyebrows.
Wait, there is a pony that has eyebrows though.
There are some. I think Moondancer does. There's that pony in Rarity's shop, the daughter of the guy who owns it. I think she has some. I think there are a couple of ponies who are rocking some nice brows, but it's so you can. It's just like, I think those are more like sort of stylistically, like you can always see them because they have volume to them, rather than just like ordinarily it's like they kind of like not paid attention to. I think that's kind of what they're going for. but you can easily just draw them anyway. And just like I was actually going to say, like you could draw eyebrows with more volume because I've seen some artists do that and it looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it works a lot if you get it right. It's super cute.
Yeah. All right. Now I got nothing else to
Yes.
say.
It's very nice though. You got some nice like ideas of perspective and like aspects of view and everything going on, so that's great.
Seriously, kudos for doing this view and just having a background. Super kudos.
Otherwise, if anyone else has any art, then throw it at us.
Last call, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
Throw art at us, please.
I mean, if you want to submit any, feel free.
Yeah, we're just here to help. If you're just giving it to us to give it to us, don't worry about it. If there's something you want help with, though, sure, totally happy to help. See, I'm bad with names. And let's stop now. I'll just give a nickname. Sea Dog. No, that's wow. I need to stop.
It's nice to see you here at least.
Is that
I swear I've been told how to pronounce the name, but
did you like accidentally make a joke there, Fluffy?
What?
He did. That was a pun.
Nice to see you there.
Oh, I see what I accidentally did there.
Sigh. All right.
I think so. That's just confusing because my name's Zai. So can we just go with Sea Dog?
I'm so sorry. You've reached the tail end of the stream where we're useless people.
We have to start the stream where we're just sort of catching up and we're like not warmed up yet, so we're just really like making awkward jokes, and then at the end when we're just tired, so we're just like stupid jokes.
I'm just saving pictures. Saving pictures. Are you in the live stream? Are they? Yes, they are.
They're in Discord. Yes,
I didn't realize they were in Discord as well. Like I saw them in.
They changed their name to Sea Dog. Oh, you get points. All the points.
Sea Dog out.
They're brilliant.
All right. You got any questions, Sea Dog?
Canvas we got now.
Good times. Good times. But yeah, any questions, concerns, things you would wish for? I wish for $1 million. That's me personally, though.
I wish for just like more art ability.
Yeah. If I had enough money, I could probably pay for it.
Oh, like commissions. I actually didn't know that Sai was in the in MLPDS. I just know them from the table and tape. The tapey table. Ooh, yes. So like so it's you can be a little bit different when you're doing. I don't know. Is this traditional or is this like digital with traditional based tools? Okay, so we're using like different like pen tools, pencils and stuff. That's interesting. Because I was gonna say like if at least with like lining and stuff, something Ali and I were talking about last week was so when we were talking about line weights, and we're sort of going into like how you can add like small details, you like using line weight and sort of adjusting how that diversifies over the picture. And we'll sort of bring up NC Mares because they're just like a master of adding small details to just with line weight and everything.
Tiny line weight, yeah.
Yeah, so it's it depends, because if you've got really thick lines, it can be very hard to add that. So like, say if you're gonna like, look at like the front hoof where it's lifted up, like that's got a very thick line around it. If you were gonna add like, yes, thank you. If you're gonna add like some little fluffy bits sticking out, so just like a really thin, small layer of like tiny fluff details, that would be hard to do if you're keeping the same line thickness, because the detail would be lost. Whereas it'd be easier to do on the back leg where it's thinner, if that makes sense. And obviously this is like sort of, you've deliberately gone for like messy tools here, so like obviously the consistency isn't an issue. Some nice any sketching going on.
Don't be afraid to be messy. I'll preach that.
Oh yes,
till I die.
Messy
Something that
sketching.
yeah, something that I find personally that helps me get texture into my piece is be messy in the sketch, because you find things, you find like,
Oh
oh, a piece of
yes.
fluff sticking out here would be great because I have this one weird sketchy line that kind of looks like fluff, or like adding streaks to the hair, for example. Like you kind of feel the flow, like oh yeah, maybe some streaks coming in that hair, and maybe a little out and over, and just you really just let yourself. And especially since you're working digital, it can be done traditionally too, of course. You just sketch lightly, but with digital, you can just do these like really messy sketches. Try not to define too much, and you just lower the opacity, and you maybe go over them again with another kind of like messy sketch. If you find things, you figure things out.
And I was just sketching the wing. I just did like the basic show star wing, and then I just kept adding layers of feathers, and that like automatically made it more detailed. Um,
All that
but
fun stuff.
yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Doing the messy sketching helps you to sort of figure out things. Um, I'd say like for me when I'm trying to do detail. So what I'll do, there are a couple of things. Firstly, I'll try and draw really big, and I'll go in and I'll just what I was saying earlier. To you might not have been here at that point, but what I was talking about earlier was sort of making sure you zoom out or lean out sometimes to see the bigger picture. Also lean in sometimes, and like I'll get right into like the face and draw the details, like how I'll like think really very precisely about how every little subtle bit of the expression, like every tiny curve of the mouth and like stuff like that can like change things, because that can be detail in itself. It's not exactly like what we think of as detail, but it can be. It's just like a subtle storytelling. Um, so I'll do that, and I'll use thinner lines. That's another thing, and I'll sort of use that to convey like more precise lines, like precisely where the line needs to be. Whereas when it's thick, our brains kind of do most of the figuring out. So if you want more detail, sort of that is sort of how detail works. Is sort of defining more in the drawing and less to be figured out by your brain. Um, at least how I see it anyway. The other thing I'll do is where I have like mains and stuff. It works particularly. You can't really do this for like bodies and things, but for mains certainly, I'll do like the big broad like sections, like just to sort of define the shape. But then I'll go in and I'll break up the sections again. Like I did this for someone on the tape on one of the raffles actually, but like I was sort of practicing this, and it worked really well. It was just sort of like, okay, they have like a very simple OC ref. I just like did the main shape, and then I just went in and just like, okay, how can I break up these big strands into smaller strands and still have it in the same shape? And I'll do some sketching. I just need to put down my mic first. So I'll let Ali talk if she has anything.
What do I have?
I got-
Do I have something?
I got nothing,
No
man.
rush.
You guys,
You got
you
the
guys
package?
just like roll this thing. We can turn on the waiting music.
Do it! Test it out. Like right now I'm kind of sketching in a really thick line, but that's just how I figure things out at first,
I did-
working thick. Like I said, it's a lot of just like playing, finding like, oh, maybe like a little fluff right on this turn here would be really super cute. Really super cute horse. That hoof is monstrous, but shh, it's fine. It's a sketch. Happy little accident. It'll be fixed later. It's a sketch. You refine and you refine and you play the revision game. There's the butt. The plot, as some call it. Just, you find it, you play it. Maybe you're thinking, oh, that back, oh, it has a wing. So never mind, you don't need to worry about filling space for that.
I'm going to do my refining as well. Yeah, I just had to figure out what I was doing with the copying and pasting.
Personally,
Too small.
Personally, to make my wings more interesting in detail, as I look up actual bird feathers, it's more of a punch in the show, and you can simplify them. It doesn't have to be hyper realism. Just kind of gives it layers and lots of lines and details to play off of. Lots of little things. And adding like maybe when you see there's like a span of just like a straight line. maybe add like, oh, they have a little fluff coming off this leg down here, and you can just kind of chisel that. Oh, that's a big eraser. Kind of like chisel out some fluff on the hoof there, or if they don't, you don't have to have fluff. All about playing. Maybe some fluff on the cheek. It's always cute to have some fluff on the ears. Like a lot of pony is like fluffing it. Other than that, it's just kind of like definition lines of like hair. Maybe you'll have like little streaks of, the hair coming out. Kind of get that feel. Overlap. Overlap is another great tool to add detail. When something starts to have overlap, you really start to feel its form and its like shape. It feels real. Makes it pop. Yeah, pop. Messy doodle.
Yay. So what I done here with the main so it's yeah, so that's what I was talking about. Like I'd start with the broad like sections, and then I just like I go through. I don't know if you were watching what I was doing, because that might help as well. But like even just looking at it, you can see where the mane falls into the same position. But like I've just added more like shape to it, just in how the messy hair like flows around. And I mean that works for like a scruffy hair is what I just drew. But like it doesn't have to be. You can do like lots of flowy, Fluttershy sort of mane, like lots of pretty elegant like waves rather than scruffiness like I did. But it works all sorts of different types. And again, that works mostly if you're working more refined. But if you're talking about adding details, then that's kind of what you want to be looking at. And again, I was zoomed like right in on the hair as I was doing this, and I was just moving around different parts. I was moving the canvas around, so I didn't even have the whole thing in my view at once, because that's kind of what you want to be getting into the habit of doing if you're trying to work more detailed. And even just on a sketch level as well, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is all about refining, just to sum up.
Getting smaller and smaller.
So I've seen another artist I want to mention for this, and it is completely relevant to what we've been talking about, is Atrial. And yes, he does a lot of sort of NSFW work, but he does safe work stuff too. But like I've watched him work, and he's just a master of refining. He basically just, his first sketch is like very gesture drawing. It's very like messy and loose. You can barely even take like a figure out of it. It just like it kind of the general area of the character. Then he'll like go through it, and he'll sort of define more of like the pose and sort of work it out in sort of more of a gesture drawing, more of a skeletal sort of way, like start to build up. Then he'll go he'll go through, and he'll just like very, very messily sketch out the character, and it will just be very like unrefined, very loose, like nothing's in a very sort of specific place, and again he just refines it more and more each time. That after that he does it over and again, and he like actually defines like how the body is shaped and like where the clothes are and everything. And he'll go through again, and he'll like add more detail and refine the lines again, and so that they're sharper and better. And he'll go through again until it's like you just keep refining until it like actually like is just so much detail, and the line weight is varied, but it just works very naturally. I don't know how he has such natural lines for doing them so quickly, because he just fires them off. But I think it's just because he's drawn so much, and he doesn't like try to limit himself to only drawing like once. He's okay with drawing the same thing 50 times and just refining it each time, and it's so much great detail. He's just expert at it. I'm floored every time I see it.
Yeah, there's something to be said for letting yourself not get married to the first
Yes.
attempt you make. Even like something a lot of people do are thumbnailing. You don't just do one thumbnail and you're done. It's like you do 7. Even if you like maybe your 7th one, do one more just in case.
Yeah.
Just kind of play.
And you can, to answer your question, you can back up the sketch layer if you want, or you could do a new one and then keep the old, like lower the opacity of the old one. That works as well. Yeah. You can also just like just erase with like a big gentle brush. I mean, I typically have like a eraser that's a big soft eraser. It's not 100% opacity, so I can just brush over the drawing and just rub out parts, and then I refine it. But you can draw. What I've also sort of got in the habit of doing lately is I'll have my skeletal structure, and then I'll do on another layer. I'll actually do the actual sketching, because I'm always like, if I want to actually color the sketch, I'm like,
now I have like the face cross over the face, and I can't erase it very easily. So I can just turn off the skeletal structure. So it's the same sort of thing. You can do that. You can just make a new sketch layer, make the old one fainter, and then draw over it, and just keep repeating that process. Sort of like onion skinning when you're animation, I guess.
Mm-hmm. It all comes down to what you feel most comfortable with. Some people don't like to have layers; they get overwhelmed with a lot of
Yeah,
little
yeah.
layers. But
Oh, it's a nice wing shape.
like KT says in Discord, it's worth using. I mean, the workspace is there. Use it to its full ability. There's no reason not to take advantage of the tools you have. There's no cheating, you know. I know a lot of people. Well, not so much now, but we did have somebody a while ago who was convinced that using pretty much any other tool besides the brush tool was cheating.
Yeah, they were
Which
just
is
wrong.
That's
silly.
crazy.
Just wrong.
Yeah, it's just
Absolutely
wrong.
great. It's like you'd have tools in real life.
You aren't allowed to use an eraser with pencil.
And it's like I've heard of people being like, "Oh, references are cheating," and that I can kind of understand people's perspective on. But like, no, like use layers, use all the tools, use brushes, use different types of pencils if you like them.
Hell, sometimes use the line tool if you want to get this
Mm.
curve super or this line really straight.
Yeah,
There's
I've done
things,
that.
you know.
Because like I mean sometimes, particularly when drawing like big long things like say snakes for example, again they're like very 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 long strokes, so like to do that with your hand in one, you can't do it in one go, you just can't. So like so you can sort of go over a bit at a time, but then that doesn't work as much. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'll just use a curve tool for this and just get it done. Who cares? I'm doing a line so that the line looks nice. It's not cheating, you know. And I had to convince myself of that. I had to learn that. So I was like, oh, I'm cheating with it. Like
And
it's a tool at your disposal.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. Even if people are like, well, I can only have a ruler in traditional. It's like, nope. There's something called a French curve. There's like tools for everything, even in traditional. So many options.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
just
and
use them.
yeah, and like and I certainly have like drawn around like I found like different. I just gathered every round object in the house, like cups and plates, and found the one that had the right sort of curve that I wanted,
Oh,
and just
I've
drew
done
around a
that.
plate.
I have no lie done that, especially for like patterning a plushie. It's
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna freeform a circle. No, thank you.
Oh yeah, and I can yeah, see PC saying the coins from her dragon thing from when they were done with the ellipses. Exactly, I can see that when I look at it, but it looks okay because those are uniform structured objects. Like I do that as well for background. I use all the shape tools. But yeah, it's like you using digital. What is in front of you is the tools you have. Like nothing about it is like a fake or an illusion. Like it's there for you to use.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Um, but yeah, like whatever you find helps is good. And just like you don't need to just keep working at the same image like forever if you're like if it's just sort of becoming too much for you. But it's good to sort of like practice and get into the idea of just like trying out like, okay, maybe I'll just do a sketch super loosely, messily, and then like go through like maybe just make the layer like 20% opacity, make a new layer, and just sketch over it and refine it and just see how it works. Maybe just like Ali said, not marrying to the first sketch, and then like keeping it loose rather than putting too much attention at first to like getting it right, because then you might find that when it's loose it's easy to figure things out and change things so they make sense. I certainly have. I've been sometimes sketching stuff and like I've like built out the body and I can't seem to make the anatomy work or the pose more importantly, and then like I'll just try it again and I'll just do more gesturing and thumbnailing and like working at it from scratch, but like from a much looser sort of perspective, and it has worked a lot to like help figure out how it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone's different, like we said earlier. It just depends finding the technique that works right for you.
Yeah. Oh, and because Zom hasn't said it yet. The other ear. Look at the other ear.
Because I haven't said it yet. Alright, I see how it is.
I was gonna. That reminded me. I was gonna say that about the brass lock pony from before, and I got up doing the legs, and other people were doing the head, and then I don't think anyone actually mentioned the other ear.
I drew it on.
Oh, it's, oh,
Ah, yeah, there it is.
I can sort of see that. Looks too far back, I think, but
Yeah.
that's me.
Ramble, ramble, ramble. Find what works. Play around. Small lines
Yeah.
help. Lots of lines, detail lines.
Tiny soft horses.
And that's only if you want detail via line art. There's also textural, painty things you can do as well. And that is a whole nother
Oh
huge
yeah,
mystery. It's just a lot of
shading
studying,
textures
really.
and like yeah, because you got like different brushes to use, which I've had fun playing around with.
Mm-hmm.
But you've
Yay.
already sort of done a little bit of that, where you got like the tools you're actually sketching with. You got like the sort of sketchy tone fill and stuff, where you've drawn that in by hand by the looks of it. So you've already sort of touched on that a little bit as well. You can do that with your coloring and shading as well.
Yeah. Ramble, ramble. We did
Rebel,
it.
rebel, rebel, rebel. Rebel, 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 rebel.
I want to move that leg over. Anyway. Yay,
But I don't have anything else to say. It was already
super
very
cutie.
cute, and
It
I
really
can't wait
was.
to see what else you do.
Super tuper. Cuter.
Like something about your face is so innocent and adorable. I just
I
want
know.
smooth the
I want to boop
cheeks.
the nose. This little boop.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But unless you have any other questions, I think I'll be done with this piece.
And I think we'll be done with today. It looks like we don't have any more submissions.
Yes.
Woohoo! Productive stream.
2 hours. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That looks like it's it. So we're going to be calling it a day. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you again next week. Wait,
Oh.
what's next week? Hold on. Yeah, next week.
Next week.
Thank you for coming, every pony.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Bye.
since it just turned the 14th for me, happy Love Day tomorrow. Hope you'll either have some pony nice to cuddle with, or just learn to love yourself and give yourself some nice happy times.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you? I'm
End
not
it.
going to go there.
End
I'm
it.
not